We're live now, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll give it a few more seconds to make it officially 7 o'clock. All right then, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 7 p.m. I would like to welcome you to the 45th session of Council of Loyalist Township here on Monday, April the 12th. We have been in closed session starting at 6 p.m. and I will report on that in a few moments in the agenda. So we'll call the meeting to order at 7. Again, this is a virtual meeting. People can watch through Zoom or by live feed on YouTube. And as usual, because it's a virtual meeting, if we have any interruptions to the internet services for any member of council, we will pause for a few minutes to allow that councillor to reconnect. And if they are unable to within about 5 minutes, assuming we still have quorum, we will continue the meeting. With that said, the meeting is called to order. As noted, we have previously been in a closed session. We went into closed session to discuss pending acquisition or disposition of real property, that is Loyalist East Business Park Lot 15, and to get a CAO update from the Fairfield Good with regard to the Fairfield Goodside property. We did provide direction to staff with regard to the purchase or a purpose or disposition, and received the information from the CAO. With that said, we now move into the open forum. Right. Open forum, we because of the virtual meetings, we ask for members of the audience who wish to speak to the open forum to connect with the clerk ahead of time to prepare for that. We have nothing on that list at this time. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to present in open forum right now? I go to the clerk.
Yes, Mr. Bon Evans is going to speak at the open forum as well as under the delegation. So I'll just bring him over.
Thank you. And I'll say welcome, Mr. Evans. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to the open forum. I understand you're also making a presentation during the delegations and presentations, but you wish to speak during the open forum, so please go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to speak about Academy Street and the general traffic that flows on that area. I wanted to speak about some of the ideas that some of the community has raised. I noticed that Kingston last year to allow people to be outside a little bit more when the parks were closing down, they allowed people to shut down the streets, the rural areas. So I was just hoping to see if there was this opportunity to do that. I raised this question in the Facebook Bath page to just see some comments, see some input about it. And some people have been complaining about this for a long time. There's a lot of different issues around it. Some people have suggested speed bumps. A few people suggested turning it into a one-way. Some people are outright against the ideas completely. But I would like to hear from the local community that would be affected by it. And if just for even 30 days to be able to do it during the lockdown, that's more where my mindset is coming from. But as I said, as I brought it to the community, it is an issue that would be an ongoing issue. And I live on Academy, so I do notice the traffic that goes through there. That's not local traffic. They should just be going to the lights and taking Main. But that's only one issue. And then there was several other issues that got brought up when I pointed that out, different areas of traffic, just on Main Street, some in the Loyalist community there, the golf community. I'd be happy to send over some more details. I sent some stuff over to one of the workers with the township. And I also sent a link to the comments and everything that was in there. So I'd be happy to speak further about that at a later time or try to fix this with you guys. But yes, I do have something else on the docket for live music Sundays. I won't take up too much of your time with this issue.
Well, I thank you for bringing that forward and appreciate that you've already communicated with staff. Council, before we go further, do we have any questions for Mr. Evans with regard to this idea? Any members of council? Okay, I see no questions for Mr. Evans right now. I would encourage you, Mr. Evans, to put your ideas in writing and bring them forward. Specifically, if I could get you to direct them to the clerk, and then we can get that onto an agenda and look at it closely. Okay. There's nothing further.
Happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing further from council, and then I'll say thank you very much, Mr. Evans. Have a good afternoon or good evening, and I'll see you in a few minutes, actually. Is there any other member present that wishes to speak to the open forum? No, we see none. And then we'll move forward. And we have no public meetings or notice of the public meetings on the agenda this evening. We do have the agenda before us. Are there any edits or amendments to the agenda as proposed? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
It's declaring conflict of interest on 14.2 as being an adjacent property owner.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Item 7.1, the confirmation of the minutes of the 44th regular session of council. We have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve those minutes? I'll take the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Townend. Thank you. Okay. Any comments? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Now we move into delegations and presentations. And first up, 8.1 is Mr. Stephen Paul from the Lennox and Addington County Economic Development. Is Mr. Paul in the audience? Thank you. And the clerk will bring him over.
Hi there.
Mr. Paul, how are you?
Here. Hi, good, thanks.
Excellent. You can hear and see us all?
Yeah. Yes. I'm all good.
Excellent. You have a presentation for us?
I do. Yes. So if I can share my screen, that'd be great.
And yes, please.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. And before you begin, let me just verify that all members of council can see the screen appropriately. Anybody having any issues? Doesn't look like it. Please go ahead, Mr. Paul.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. Appreciate the invitation to talk about a really important project that we've been working on over the last 8 months, but also want to provide some updates of projects we've been working on, but also work that we've been doing from an economic development standpoint. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to really kind of dovetail some of these items into this presentation this evening. So firstly, with respect to the last year, of course, it's been extremely challenging for businesses, and we spent a considerable amount of time trying to help and assist and do what we can to ensure that businesses survive, but also look to prosper as we've gone through the last year. But we've also had a lot of opportunities to really do quite a bit of work to, I would say, establish baseline data work on how we can help to improve all the communities in Lennox and Addington County, and that's what I'm happy to speak to you about tonight. Oops, sorry, going the wrong way all of a sudden. Sorry about that, queued up the wrong way. It's going to be a really short presentation there. Yeah. Okay, so firstly, with regards to what was being presented this evening, we did a data analysis to understand where the gaps or challenges, and most importantly, the opportunities that were available in Lennox and Iden County, and specifically for each of our local municipalities. So we received funding from our local CFDC to do this, and we contracted a company called Jupia Consultants. And the primary contact was David Campbell, and David is certainly well known in the economic development world. I've got a chance to meet him at an EDAC conference in New Brunswick a couple of years ago. And he was the former chief economist for New Brunswick. So certainly is well-versed in economic development and how to make communities better. So we asked him really to do 3 to 4 major things. Help us look at how we can bring new entrepreneurs and new investors into our county, into Loyalist Township and specifically, focusing on commercial and retail, light industrial. We asked him to look into tourism investment, as well as how we can attract even more residents into our communities. So he did all the data analysis. He pulled statistics off multiple different sources, and that's what we're able to present to you this evening. So I've really kind of just picked and chosen a few different stats to speak to you about this evening, but most of these really highlight, where the opportunities exist for Loyalist Township. So no surprise to council, Loyalist Township is in a growth mode, absolutely no doubt about that. And the statistics certainly demonstrate that. So when you're looking at Eastern Ontario, Loyalist has led the way for population growth. Over the last 10 years, 2019 being the most up-to-date information we have, you've seen 9.4% increase in population. And you look at the graph, you can compare that to our neighbors up and down the 401 corridor in Eastern Ontario. So again, leading the way at 9.4%, and you'll see that Brockville had a slight reduction in population. So that's all good news as you're looking at new opportunities to invest, for people to invest in our communities and for us to help attract those as well. So a big part of what we want to do is actually get some really good solid information that would help us, as well as entrepreneurs and investors, to make a decision of where they would like to invest. So we very much focused on business concentration stats. And what those actually mean is this. If you look at kind of a ratio of what business concentration would be by population, the average in Canada, of course, would be 1.0, so 1. And then everything else is really based along that, based on the total amount of businesses you have in a community, comparing that, of course, to the population as well. And again, I said earlier about no surprise that there's growth. There's absolutely no surprise as well to anyone here this evening that there are fewer businesses in Loyalist Township than what there are in other comparable communities. And if you actually get right down to the retail side, there's 69% fewer retail businesses. Now, if you look at that from a sector side of things, you'll see when I look at the occupation group. So retail trade, 0.31 for Loyalist Township, and the blue is actually Kingston at 1.09. So in the retail trade, Kingston is above average and Loyalist is considerably below average. Now, when you combine those two, you have that 1.4 ratio. And in many cases, the economies of Kingston and Loyalist Township are very much intertwined. And this statistic certainly shows that as well. The question is, when does the separation start to happen and that pull from the city of Kingston start to lessen as well? And I think over the last year, we've seen that more so. And then as the population growth continues in Loyalist Township, you're going to see those ratio changes as well. We've done a lot of research in comparable communities right across the country. And when you're looking at communities that have a similar relationship or partnership as Loyalist Township does with the city of Kingston, those partnerships start to actually stretch and become a little bit more independent when population reaches around 25,000. So as Loyalist Township grows, we're getting closer and closer to that ability to kind of pull away from that strong retail magnet that's in Kingston as we speak. And then you can see the other subcategories are here as well. Again, very comparable from professional services right to construction. You're comparing Kingston to Loyalist Township, and Loyalist would be certainly underserviced in each one of those categories. One of the big factors in businesses looking at Loyalist versus being in Kingston, if you really kind of dig into some of the statistics, this is commuting patterns for Loyalist Township. Now, this is based on 2016, and this is the most up-to-date data that we have from the census perspective. But you'll see that 3,200 people every single day travel from Loyalist Township into Kingston. So those are 3,200 people that are most likely well, of course, they're working there, but they're also probably doing their grocery shopping there. They may be going to the pharmacy. They may be picking up other things as they leave that city. So this is a bit of an issue, of course, as you look at how we can attract commercial and retail into the location of Loyalist when you have this many people that are leaving. Again, as population grows and the community gets larger and stronger, then you're going to see those numbers start to reduce and more investors looking to come into the community as well. So based on those statistics, we then asked David to look at what the implied market size would be for Loyalist Township. So this is on the retail trade side. This slide gives you an idea of actually what is the true market size for any one of these categories. So if you look at motor vehicles and parts dealership, strictly for Loyalist Township, that's a $75 million market size. That's substantial. If you go down to furniture and home furnishing stores, 9,300,000. When I see these numbers, this is a really amazing opportunity for an entrepreneur or a chain store or business or another investor to look at Loyalist Township because the market size is so significant. Now, is Loyalist Township going to be able to attract a Honda dealership into Loyalist Township? No, at this point in time, because of what we have in Kingston. But there are opportunities for quick oil change locations, parts, even right down to car washes, all these different things that all make up the motor vehicle side of the sector as well. So there's a real opportunity for larger scale businesses and a real opportunity for entrepreneurs. And then what we asked to do is what is actual retail trade potential? So again, you take that $75 million market size for motor vehicle and parts dealers, and then you can actually understand what is the target. So what does the market actually allow in Loyalist Township? So if you're looking at motor vehicles, you'll see that we have one without employees, one with employees for a total of 2, really low index of 0.18. But the community itself could handle 11. And so 11 businesses within that kind of parts motor vehicle sector is the capabilities are there based on the market size. And again, you can go all the way down through to, sporting goods, books and music. The target for Loyalist Township for size of this community would be 5. There's just 1 right now. So these are all really good pieces of information that we can use as an economic developer to talk to, again, someone who may be looking to start up a business and maybe someone looking to expand their business from other locations as well. The case is very, very strong, as we can see by these numbers, that Loyalist is a township that companies and businesses and entrepreneurs need to be looking at very seriously. And a couple of little points with regards to the opportunity on retail trade. And significant potential because of available greenfield land for retail development. I'm quite excited about the secondary plan that's happening in Amherst right now and how that would look at new opportunities for commercial and retail growth within Loyalist Township. And then we also looked at the local retail workforce. So there's actually 1,000 people living in Loyalist who work in the retail trade sector. The mass majority are being in Kingston. So if you're a retailer looking to come into Loyalist Township, you have 1,000 people that you could hire, 1,000 people that may not want to drive even the 15 minutes into Kingston every single day. You have an experienced retail workforce that's right here all ready to go as well. It's another really great reason why you should be looking at investing in Loyalist Township. So where we go from there next, we've actually been in the last 6 months, we're working with the Queen's School of Business. We've hired 2 interns from the business school who are doing a considerable amount of research for us. They're looking at similar communities across Canada. They're researching specific businesses, looking at those who are looking to expand, those that will fit the market size that I just indicated here in Loyalist Township, and what the overall competitive landscape looks like as well. Tie that into what the real estate potential is in Loyalist. We now have the capability to actually start doing direct targeting of businesses or developers because we have the data that shows that it's a really good news story. We've done the research to determine who those companies are. And now Tracy Snow, actually, who's our economic development officer, is reaching out to companies and pitching the Loyalist Township story to them. And it's a good story to tell, absolutely no doubt about that. The other, interesting aspect is that, we have entrepreneurs calling us every day with their big idea of what they would like to see be the business that they open. When we have all this data, and we can certainly look at that and indicate to them that, here's a really good opportunity for you to actually make money. That's why you want to open the business, is to be profitable. Let's use an example as a pet food store. Huge market for pet food stores. Doesn't exist right now in the Loyalist Township, specifically as a company that you can just specifically target that market size. So if you're an entrepreneur that may be looking at different communities across Ontario, this would be the spot for you to be able to do that within Loyalist Township. And it is, again, millions and millions of dollars of market size available right within the community. So outside of the retail, we also looked at a whole bunch of different other sectors as well. So we looked at professional services. Again, the numbers are all very consistent, from lawyers to IT services. There's the need for this to be in Loyalist Township. Again, all the way down the line, you'll see that. If you look at personal services, everything from barber shops to equipment repair to automotive glass, a lot of that tied into some of the $75 million that I talked about on the automotive side of things. Again, numerous opportunities that exist for entrepreneurs to be in Loyalist Township and to be successful. Then we also drilled down into healthcare as well. The number of dentists that the community could, the capabilities of the community from a dentist side of things, from home healthcare services, again, significant market size. All these are happening in Kingston right now. They need to be pulled back as the population grows and the community grows in Loyalist Township. Again, big opportunities for those that are looking to do that. And then lastly, on the sectors, we looked at construction firms. Construction probably is one of the ones a little bit more stronger in relation to the Canadian average in Kingston, but still, significant needs, particularly when you see all the residential growth that's happening. There is the room within the market for those individuals and those firms to be based in Loyalist Township. So that is a little bit of the data on the businesses and the gaps and where the opportunities exist. I want to just touch really quickly on just some of the support that we've been providing for businesses during the pandemic. And as I indicated at the start, there's been lots of telephone conversations with businesses, some not really easy conversations that we've had over the last little while. I think we're all extremely nervous about the current lockdown and what that means for our businesses. They've done everything in their power to survive up until this point in time, but this is a big hit, particularly when you looked at January versus now. January is a quieter time for retail in particular and service industries post-Christmas, but April and May are not. And, so we have significant concerns with regards to what will happen over the next 30 plus days. What we've been doing to help, we do actually digital coaching. So we have a digital marketing expert that's part of our team right now. He's helping businesses across the county get online, be able to market appropriately. It's a huge number of businesses that didn't have a website, weren't selling online pre-pandemic. Many of those are now and are open 24/7 and able to actually be open right now with a lockdown and helps them with their curbside or their takeout or their delivery. We're actually working with KPMG on financial coaching. So they're working with businesses to look at their books, see how their cash flow is, help them with their debt, look at their taxes and how they're filing this year. So we have the services of KPMG that are working with us over the next few months to help those businesses when it comes to their financial side of things. We also had a fund that we provided up to $2,000 in support for 18 businesses across the county to help get them online. So we're working with them right now, and it's everything from websites to setting up their Shopify page to doing photography and all the things that are required to market themselves appropriately. And then we help businesses just really stick handle and try to understand all the different relief programs that are available from COVID. It is sometimes not very easy. In many cases, there are businesses that were able to get dollars from one program, but not from another. So there's been a lot, in the sense, translation that we've been trying to do and helping them with applications through this process as well. And that will continue on as long as it's required. So a big part of what we've been doing as well to try to help our local businesses to promote local. And I can say that the reason many of our businesses are able to be still around today is because our residents made a really concerted effort to buy local. Absolutely no doubt about that. And there are some businesses that had their absolute best year this year because instead of maybe driving into Kingston, they were going to the shop in Bath or in Odessa or in Amherst or Wilton Cheese in Wilton, and where they hadn't done that before. So we really put a big effort into trying to promote all these businesses. So these are just 4 examples of Facebook and Instagram ads that we did. You can see the first one is Lakeside Studio Gallery, a new gallery in Bath. We did an ad for them, and 653 people went directly to that website from those ads. And you can see that right across the board, 600 plus every one of those. Automotive Angels and Amherst, we just completed an advertisement campaign for them. So 35,000 people actually saw this ad, which means 35,000 people may have learned about this business, and 693 clicked through to websites and Facebook pages. So we're doing everything we can to help promote local, but when it's all said and done, that's a big kudos to our community for really jumping on that and helping our businesses get through this terrible year plus that's been ongoing. Wanted to talk a little bit about manufacturing because we asked David from our consulting firm to do a little bit of analysis for that. They really focused down into two potential opportunities for Lennox and County where there's growth within the industry, but also we have the capabilities with what we have from a landscape and a geography side of thing. So the first is transportation and warehousing. With the risks that you're seeing in supply chains over the last year with the pandemic, you're seeing a lot of onshoring happening from a supply chain side of things because so much was disrupted with the certainly first go through of lockdowns and shutdowns in March of last year. So you're looking at a little bit more micro warehousing and transportation options. They're getting these distribution centers closer to the population versus those coming from longer locations and farther away. And then the other opportunity is on food manufacturing. Again, this is very much focused on the pandemic as well. The risk for food processing has been substantial. And you're looking at large scale food processors that have had numerous cases and those lines get shut down. They'll be looking to food security issues. So you're seeing a lot of growth starting to happen now in smaller scale food processing and manufacturing. That can be certainly an opportunity for Loyalist Township as we go forward. I should say as well that it's crazy as it may be, but this year has probably had the most inquiries and most leads that we've had in the last 5 years. So businesses are looking to invest right now. They're looking at new geography, new locations, the onshoring, the risk management is definitely taking place. And we work with these partners that are on the screen when it comes to how do we attract manufacturing and particularly foreign direct investment, so FDI. We work with Ontario East Economic Development, all our partners in the province, in the Canadian government as well. And then we used to do quite a few trade shows. We did our first virtual trade show just a couple of weeks ago, which was a Restaurants Canada show. The reason we did that one is because of what this data showed about food manufacturing and food processing. We wanted to talk to those individuals and talk to them about Lennox and County. So again, there's a lot of, I'd say, tire kicking happening right now, which is great. We do a lot of responses to RFPs and information that real estate brokers are looking for. So that's all good news that's continuing and actually growing. Sorry, let's go to screen sharing. Just my screen sharing that's okay. I'm just gonna do this if that's okay.
There we go.
Okay, I'm gonna go back. Just one, yeah, sorry about that. Just had a glitch. Is that okay now?
I can see. Council, can you see? I'm seeing nods. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So we also asked to look at building a case for living in Loyalist Township. And as I started the presentation, lots of growth happening, lots of residential development taking place, but a lot of really good news stories that we can tell to even make that larger and more significant as well. So again, if you're looking at Ontario, the Loyalist cost for a home is 38% below the average right across our province. And there's also bigger bang for the buck. So we actually did an analysis of a share of dwellings with at least 8 rooms. So you'll see when you're looking at homes in Loyalist Township, 40% of those homes have at least 8 rooms. When you compare that to Ontario, that's at 31%, and Canada at 29%. So again, more bang for your buck when it's all said and done. We also did a lot of analysis on medium household income, and you'll see that Loyalist is leading the way in the Eastern Ontario. So at 1.09, Ontario being 1, that the median household income shows the wealth within the community. And that's a great thing as well when you're looking at attracting retail and commercial businesses into the community. And then lastly, there's also an index of how to look at remoteness and your ability to access all the different services, entertainment, everything that people are looking for when they move into a community or start a business in a community. Loyalist is one of the lesser remote, smaller municipalities with an index of 0.14. To give you an idea of that, like Nunavut, so up in the north, would be at 1, and Toronto would be at 0. So Loyalist at 0.14 is very good and speaks to all the different services that are available within the community. And then lastly, I thought I'd just touch upon a little bit about tourism investment, because tourism is a big part of what we do within our office. So firstly, we asked to look at what does the marketplace look like around Loyalist Township from a tourism perspective. And what we've learned, and we always knew that Kingston was very strong on the tourism side, but if you actually looked at a per capita population, Kingston attracts the most overnight visits by Canadian tourists per 1,000. So 1.5 million people visited the city in 2017. Of course, that's changed over the last 2 years, but it just speaks to this captive audience that's available here in our area, with Kingston very much leading the way when you're looking at a per capita side of things. We also did an analysis, as we did for retail, with what those values would be for tourism industries in Kingston and where some opportunities may exist for Loyalist Township. So you'll see that Kingston is, overly way above average, 3.39 for scenic and sightseeing transportation. Lots of heritage and museums within our community, and of course, Loyalist has some amazing assets as well, and accommodation services and restaurants. But these numbers really don't say that we're over-serviced within our area. It actually speaks to the success of tourism, particularly, in Kingston as well. So again, a real opportunity to be able to pull those individuals out of that city and into our community as well. And then just for interest's sake, the RTO 9, so that's the tourism area that goes from Trenton all the way to Cornwall. If you look at why people visit this area, the number one reason is to visit family and friends. And the second most popular are all these, and these are all outdoor activities. So from 8.2 million people, 500,000 people come to hike, right down to 27,000 people come for snowmobiling. So we are very much an outdoor location, and we have such wonderful assets for that as well. So I show that because that's really what leads into the brand that we've created, which is naturally L&A and our unspoiled moments. Really, a brand is what personifies the community, and we've been really pleased over the last 3 years of what naturally L&A has done from a tourism perspective. So a little bit about last year, because last year was certainly an anomaly in a big way with regards to tourism, but we actually saw our largest year for pure traffic on our website. And speaking to businesses, they had some of their most successful tourism years this past year in 2020. So we had a 121% increase in website visits to our tourism site. 165,000 people visited our websites between July and September, which was absolutely massive. And what it spoke to was the demand for outdoor experiences. You saw people going to hiking and bird watching and paddling. You can go right through the list of all those different activities I showed you earlier that make up the second biggest reasons why people travel to our region. And it showed on our website. And we certainly expect more of the same in 2021. We don't know how we can market, what we'll market. What we can say is first 2 months will certainly strictly be focused on local. And then depending if things improve, we would start to expand out the scope regionally and then beyond that as well. But we expect, if allowed, that you're going to see fairly active tourism industry again through July, August, and September in our area. Okay, so I will stop there. So I kind of ran through that very quickly. It was all a little bit everything but the kitchen sink I threw at you from a data side of things. But what I would say is that this work has really created a really strong baseline for us to be able to understand where the needs are, and I think most importantly to have the numbers to be able to support that as well. Because we can say that we need X store or X restaurant, but to have the data to be able to support that is really what businesses and investors are looking for. They ultimately need to be able to show that they can make money, they can be profitable, and these will be really good starter conversations for us as we move forward. And we're already seeing, some pretty good uptake on those conversations as well. So I will stop there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. I'll turn to council. Before I go to council, I just want to point out that on our agenda and publicly posted is the link to the document that you were highlighting at the beginning of your presentation, the complete document talking about the statistics and the marketing goals for Loyalist Township. So I hope that people will take a very close look at that. Not just our council, but all members of our community take a very close look at that. It's always good to have in your back pocket as you're having discussions with potential entrepreneurs. With that, I'll turn to council for any comments or questions for Mr. Paul. Nobody? Okay, I'll start with a fairly specific one. One of the things that we've noted with regard to tourism within Loyalist Township is a challenge with having enough, to use a particular phrase, having enough places for people to leave their money. Right? They come here, they drive the beautiful scenery, they watch, they use our parks, things like that. But we don't have very many hotels or restaurants and things of that nature to encourage them, A, to stay a little longer, but also B, to leave some money and improve our local economy. What do you feel are the next steps for attracting that type of investment?
No, it's a very, very good point. On the tourism side, I mean, there's really two parts of tourism. There's the megaphone. So the megaphone is screaming from the top of the mountain, you need to visit us. And there's the magnet. And the magnet is what you just talked about. It's those products that are available. And from our perspective, probably the most important thing is actually the product as we look into tourism in the future. Because, the numbers I showed you from some of the statistics we've had on the website and traffic we've had, those are all great and we've had really good exposure, but we need to keep them longer. We need to ensure that they're not here for strictly an afternoon or a day, but they're here for 2 days or 3 days. So that would be the goal going forward is how can we look at what are the assets that are, I would say, unique and specific to Loyalist Township, and how can we leverage those as well? So I'll give an example of something actually we're doing in Addington Highlands right now. Just where we could possibly go in the future and working together. So we actually we have a CBRE that's working on a proposal or feasibility study on a treetop trekking product within Addington Highlands, because we actually own quite a bit of land in the county forest in Flinton. So we saw that as an opportunity that could be a significant product for certainly Addington Highlands, but also Lennox-Landing County. So we're going through a feasibility study. They're providing us with all the numbers on how much it's going to cost to build this, what the actual marketplace is, where will you draw people from? And then from there, it'll be our role is to actually go out and talk to investors and those that are in that industry to see if they're interested based on the feasibility of the study to come in. So I use that as an example because I think that would be what's required. So even from a motel accommodator side of things, they would be looking at feasibility studies to understand that the market is there in Loyalist Township to build new. Same for resorts, same for golf courses, all the different products that were required. So there is going to be some work needed to be done to understand where are our strengths, how can we be competitive in a strong market, not only for attracting people, but also raising money on the investment side of things, and try to make that happen here as well. Certainly the investments you're putting into the heritage and museum side of things is a huge plus. What we've seen on Amherst Island with the dry stone walls, I mean, those are basically very much unique to Amherst Island and Loyalist Township. You need to take advantage of those and try to package those together to keep people staying here for a longer period of time.
Thank you very much. I'll continue the question, and before we go back to council, more specifically with regard to commercial and retail. You may note in your presentation, and definitely it shows in the report, that we are distinctly lacking the at least the average number of businesses of that nature in our area. I know that you and your staff have been working very hard on attracting more businesses to the area. Can you give us some examples or maybe a bit of a rundown on what you're doing to attract those businesses?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. So on the commercial side and the retail side, so we are actually at the process now that we're going to be reaching out directly and speaking to those businesses we believe are the right fit for Loyalist Township. So we have all the information in our back pocket and are making those calls. Those sometimes are a little bit more difficult conversations because they're somewhat cold calls, but at the same time, we believe we have a good story to tell and we have the data to be able to support that as well. With the commercial and retail side, there's 2 or 3 different aspects of how to actually, target those. You have going directly to the business themselves, so the head office. We're also trying to get an understanding and feel of who the developers are that represent some of those national brands. So there are multiple developers right across Ontario that would look after, potentially Tim Hortons, or they may have a Giant Tiger or a Jiffy Lube. They all, in a sense, have those within their portfolio. So trying to get an understanding of who those are and then reaching out directly to them as well. And then the third aspect would be the entrepreneurs. They're looking at startups. They're not looking at bringing in a franchise. They're looking to set up like a Main Street business. And those ones are a bit more of a kind of a needle in a haystack. But a lot of the work that we're doing right now, reaching out to Toronto and particularly telling the story about you can live here, sell your place in Toronto, move to Loyalist Township and start up a business. And those are things that we're doing directly. As we speak right now, actually, we have a campaign in the GTA that's strictly speaking to that. You can come here at, X percentage savings for a large home, have the space you need. And also we have all these opportunities for you to start up that business as well. So those are kind of 3 aspects that we're all looking to focus on as we go forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, I'll turn back to council if you have any questions or comments with regard to Mr. Paul's presentation. I'll go to Councillor Gordon.
Hi. Actually, a number of things that were impressive. I felt that as far as the opportunities go, I wish we could communicate this somehow, which we're talking about marketing, is whether it's signs when you drive in that we're open for business or whatever. Unfortunately, and I saw that when I spoke to a lot of people about local businesses and would they be willing to support them. And I really believe sincerely that most people are locally willing to support them. We're a little spread out, unfortunately, because of just the way it is. I mean, it's maybe people in Bath don't know about businesses in Odessa and vice versa and all that stuff. So unfortunately we have that. And in Amherst-View, I guess I blame, you mentioned there's around 25,000 people before we start to show more independence that way, but we're not even half that. And so we got a few years to go, but it's frustrating because I'll give Spears an example that the plaza has probably had, woodworking shops, 2 butcher shops. There's been a lot of businesses. Recently a gift shop closed. She gave it quite a good go for a long time. And Amherst's got a history of it. There's been hardware stores. There's been all kinds of stores. I like to think that didn't make it, but I like to think that's changing. I think there's good opportunities. I know of some businesses that I've spoken to that are interested in opening a location out here. They're very, should I say, cautious. But that's it. I mean, because of our tremendous growth, I really believe that we can create a lot better market, I guess, for ourselves. I mean, you explain that to residents all the time. If we want to offset residential taxes, one of the ways we're going to do that, it's going to be more businesses, and we have to support them. I'll give you an example. I go into Foodland, and I'm there probably more than the manager. But I go there a lot, and I very seldom see a lot of my local contacts and friends. I used to see more of them, and I don't now as much. So I don't know, maybe there's a good opportunity for a No Frills or another store in town. I know that with Foodland, the biggest concern people have is competitive pricing. But so there's a little bit of a state. I think there's going to be a little battle mentally to get people in Amherst in particular to start shopping more local. Again, because of proximity to Kingston, you can get in your car and travel 10 minutes up the road and you're on Gardner's Road and you have a whole host of options. But I really believe if we push hard and we work at this, this was great to see tonight. I appreciate all the work that you guys are putting into it. Is there maybe I missed that, is there like if I'm talking to a local business who wants to maybe consider looking at here, should I put them in touch with you and then you take the rest over, or where do we, is there an opportunity that way? Or should they just go on a web page or?
No, I mean, yeah, please just pass them right along to myself and our team. And we've been more than happy to take them through all the steps that they need to do to make that decision. So we have a small business coach. So Ashley Arnold is our small business coach. So that's what he does every single minute of the day, is deal with small businesses that are here right now and those looking to grow. And we also have Tracy Snow, who's our economic development officer, and she's doing quite a bit of work on the outreach, but she also works with larger companies looking to come into our communities. So yeah, no, I would say just please pass them our way. And then, as we start to have these conversations with the potential business, we work with the Loyalist Township team to look at, the land that may be available. Are there zoning questions? All the different things that are required. So it very much takes a team when it comes to, attracting a business. And they certainly respect that when we bring all the professionals around the table to help them be successful. And that's really what we want them to be.
So the businesses that you showed are illustrated in there. So if I understand it correctly, so you're saying there should be 7 lawyers should be able to make a business work out here, or I think you had 16 food and restaurant places. That's that's a lot, seems like, but I always say that we can always use more of them. I mean, it's trickled in, but it hasn't really been that significant in the last few years. Tim Hortons, for example, I almost get asked about that as much as winter taxes going down. But I mean, Tim Hortons, anything like that, you would think. I think we're almost maybe can handle the McDonald's. I don't know, but I think that we got to do whatever we can do on council and our staff and you folks to make this more attractive. And so whatever help we can help out, do whatever. Please keep us informed. Maybe more council meetings like this where we can discuss these issues and concerns. So. Thank you again.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I will say, and not to caution about data, but to your point of 16 restaurants, that's what the data says. But there's a lot of other attributes need to be taken into consideration. So again, what's in Kingston, how far away? Right. But what it does demonstrate is there's a need, and there's the ability for that business to grab hold of a piece of the market that no one else is. Yeah, and that's what's really important right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up?
Thank you. First off, thank you for bringing the presentation to us there, Stephen. I've enjoyed seeing the county level report, a couple of different ones, and to see it drilled down to Loyalist is really good. And I guess this is going to lead up to a question, not a huge question, but just with all the changes over the last year, a lot of the economics has changed a lot as well. And I mean, the one report that we got at County Council showed a map with the exiting of the large centers, GTA, Ottawa, and everything, as it became more acceptable and more preferred to be working remotely, that opened opportunities throughout the province that weren't there before. And then a lot of, being encouraged to stay local, shop local, staycation, all of the different phrases that are the key phrases right now, which have always been around, but have really become significant right now. With the inquiries that you're getting, is it safe to assume that a lot of them are taking advantage of this, or should they be taking more advantage of this where, and I know for myself, working remotely, I don't have to drive into Kingston every day. So the shops that are close to me, they are the first ones that I see every day. So are the new businesses that are inquiring, are they really capitalizing on that, or is that something we should be looking at building more interest in?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the inquiries that we're receiving and the customers that we're working with, we're working with a lot of local who are looking to start up, which is always nice because those are individuals that, have stakes in the community, live here. They're not going to just pick up and leave because head office maybe told them to leave, and head office in the United States. So that's kind of nice to be able to see that. We are seeing, though, quite a few younger professionals out of the greater Toronto area, inquiring about land and businesses for sale and opportunities that exist as well. For example, this is a Napanee example, and I have a Addington Highlands one as well right now. These are just ones that are very topical. There's a couple that have purchased an old garage in downtown Napanee. They're going to turn that into a restaurant, and they own 3 restaurants in Toronto, and they're looking at expanding out because they've actually moved to Tamworth into Stone Mills. We just met someone recently, a young couple that just bought a piece of property in Addington Highlands up near Caladar. They're looking to turn that into kind of a retreat. They're in the healthcare industry and looking to, you take advantage of that. So we are seeing quite a bit of it. How long or will it take place? That's still hard to tell. I mean, do we have 6 months opportunity or 2 years, or is this complete change? I'm not really sure at this point in time, but I do know that we're getting a lot of calls. People are looking, and I think whatever we can do to take advantage of it now is going to be important. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Thank you. And any other member of council have a question or comment? Seeing none, I will say thank you, Mr. Paul. Great presentation, and we greatly appreciate your efforts and your department's efforts on behalf of Loyalist Township, and specifically your presentation to us tonight. Could I get a motion to receive Mr. Paul's presentation, please? And Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Townen. Any comments or questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Stephen. Good to see you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, have a good meeting. Okay.
Thank you. Moving forward on the agenda, number 8.2, we have Mr. Bon Evans back. He had requested a presentation with regard to the pavilion at Finkel Shore. Mr. Evans, are you back with us?
Yeah. Yes, I am back with you now.
Excellent. And
yep.
Welcome back. And you've got a presentation for us?
Well, not as fancy as a presentation as the Loyalist Naturally LNA there. That was an amazing one. Thank you very much to them for putting that together. It was very educational for even myself sitting here. So yes, my presentation, like I said, is not as extensive as that one. I'm just basically promoting the same thing that I've done for the last 2 years with you guys with Live Music Sundays. I'd like to get Loyalist a little bit more involved with the township, potentially move forward with some funding towards the musicians, as well as the pavilion costs covered again.
Okay, if that's your presentation? I understand it's a fairly specific question.
Yeah, it's sorry about that. It's a little different. It's nice to see all you guys in the council meeting in this kind of fashion, but I'm just wrapping up a Amherst Island radio show, so I'm actually jumping on the ferry, and I might actually cut out on you guys halfway through the lake, so I will keep it brief for you.
Okay. And do you have anything else to add, or do you want to go to council now?
I think that's basically it. I mean, I put in the submission for the paperwork, same thing as last year and the year before. Really, it's in your hands. I'm in your hands. I'm at your mercy as always.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn to council. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Evans with regard to his presentation or his request? Okay. I see none. Okay. Oh, I don't think we have any questions for you at this point, Mr. Evans. I think most likely council is all aware of your activities over the last couple of years. Question for myself. I'm assuming that you have been working with our staff with regard to health protocols, all of the concerns around COVID, et cetera, including the timing of any potential events that could happen this year.
Yes, I was working with them last year very closely to make sure that we did everything correctly. I was only able to put together 3 shows before we had to stop. The restrictions, bumped up a little bit more, but I'm absolutely going to be working hand in hand with them as well this year, and as well with Friday 33, making sure that all the sanitation, all health protocols are followed, as well as working on backup plans to keep things as live streaming at a venue if we're not allowed to do it in the actual park on some of those days.
Understood. Obviously, right now with the stay-at-home order, things are not going, but you're not quite there yet in the season.
That's exactly right. We're looking for May 30th right now, and I'm hoping after the 30-day stay-in order, they'll have a little bit more lenience, and we'll be able to jump back out there soon.
Okay, thank you. Council, anything else? And do I have a motion? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yes, I move to receive the delegates presentation and move to waive the rental fees for the pavilion for this summer.
And I'll take that as a motion. Do I have a seconder for that? I'll go to Councillor Buderick. Thank you. Mover, comments?
No, I just think it falls in line with what we just heard from Mr. Paul, in that it is one of our products that we can offer.
And absolutely. Councillor Buderick, comment? No? And other members of council comment? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Just wanted to thank Mr. Evans for putting this together again. I think it's a great opportunity for the communities to come together and have a peaceful or enjoyable afternoon at the park.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I agree with the sentiment of the motion. I'm just not going to support it because Mr. Evans has already been in discussions, he said, with staff, and it sounds like the scope of what the township's involvement would be changed from the previous years. So I'd like to be able to receive input from staff as to what the total impacts of the township would be, whether it's in kind or whatever. And just to make sure that we're all aware of the full expenditures before we give approval.
Thank you. Councillor Porter, would you be interested in amending your motion to include a staff report?
I think we're just, yes, I would like to say, the deputy mayor has made a good point. Is this venture costing us a lot of money in other ways? And we could get a report and look at that. But in the meantime, I think we're just talking about rental fees being waived, which likely we wouldn't get the fee anyway. So I can amend my motion to waive the rental fees and ask staff for a report in regards to what level of involvement the municipality has in this.
Okay, I'll take that as a friendly. And Councillor Buderick, do you support the friendly amendment? Okay. Okay. Does the clerk have clarity on the motion as it stands? Thank you.
I do, Your Worship.
Thank you. Anything further from council? And mover, final comment? No? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And so you got the motion on the table, Mr. Evans, and we'll move forward. I thank you very much for your presentation today.
Okay, thank you very much. So then in the moving forward, I'd be communicating with staff through emails. I don't take up too much of their time. I don't think that that there would be any real costs incurred by the township for the work that they put in. Usually it's just me that's putting in the work, and I don't really take too much of a pay from all of this, or at least for the last couple of years. I would like to see some sort of an income from this year, because with music being shut down, my entire industry is really taking a hit. So I'm trying as hard as I possibly can to scrape as much money as I can together for the musicians, as well as hopefully something for myself for putting it together, organizing it, putting the sound together and promoting it. So if the township is able to redirect some sort of funds towards it, I know that in the previous years you've said that I've got to ask around December time, so I know it's a little late, but if there is something still in the bucket.
And understood, and we'll ask our staff through this motion. We've asked our staff to come back with a report on the project, and we can explore those at that time.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
With that, we move further to our agenda. There's nothing under unfinished business. We have a report from the Chief Administrative Officer with regard to the OMPF. Mr. Silver, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. After that fantastic presentation by Mr. Paul, I find myself in an awkward position because I'm going to have to throw cold water on such an exciting opportunity and tell you why we need more provincial funding. I'm sort of arguing against what he says, but it was a fantastic opportunity. And I'm sure Council doesn't want me to get back up on the soapbox and vent again about OMPF and how we're not being treated fairly. The report is there. We've been talking about it for a couple of years. So I'm just suggesting that we take it to the Premier and ask for some support to get out of the Kingston census, which affects our household incomes and our access to services, as Mr. Paul was talking about, and so that we can access our fair share of the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silver. Council, do you have any questions with regard to this report or for Mr. Silver? Seeing none, I would, as much as you say you're throwing cold water on Mr. Paul's report, I think it actually speaks volumes to the idea that, you know, the other areas within the county have had the opportunity of commercial development because they are a little bit further afield from the city. So I'm thinking that this is actually supportive of that and supportive of the idea of commercial growth within Loyalist Township. And that there's no further comment, I'll look for a mover. I'll go to Councillor Buderick and a seconder, and Councillor Porter. Thank you. And mover, any comments? And seconder, any comments?
No.
Anyone else wish to comment with regard to the OMPF? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving forward to item 11.1, municipal transit enhanced cleaning. We have a report before us, and Mr. Dickey, and let's go forward. Do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Nothing further this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And does council, do we have any questions with regard to this report? I see none, and we have a recommendation before us to authorize myself and the CAO to do an agreement. And council, would you like to make a motion? I'll take the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Porter. And any comments? Mover, seconder, anyone else? And then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And then we move to 11.2, the Safe Restart Agreement for Phase 2 Municipal Transit Funding. Again, Mr. Dickey. And Mr. Dickey, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, nothing to add. It's a required transfer agreement with the province to for the second phase of the transit funding is available through the extra COVID funding that we're entitled to. So it's just again looking for authorization to have the agreement signed.
Thank you. Council, any questions? I see none. Can I get a motion to provide that approval? And Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Budrick. Right. Mover, any comment? Seconder? Anyone else? And seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to 11.3, Loyalist East Business Park pricing. And again, we have Mr. Dickey with us. And do you have anything to add to your report at this time?
Through you, Mr. Chair, nothing for me to add. If there are questions, Director Mayer as well is here, her staff. Our staff help with crunching the numbers together, but her staff, it's done most of the work on this project. So she's available as well to answer questions.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Mayer, for being here. Council, do you have any questions with regard to this report? No questions? Oh, Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, just to be sure though, so we're on the report Loyalist East Business Park pricing?
Yes, 11.3.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. You quote a maximum price per acre. Why is that? Just what was the rationale behind putting a maximum someone could pay?
Through you, Your Worship, if I could take that question. Of course, we probably would not refuse a maximum. We're trying to be fair though in what we're asking. So the maximum for us is really this is typically what staff would be asking. So that's our maximum, the way I see it, because we deal with most of the transaction. We would be taking that maximum as an asking price. So it's helpful for staff to have that range. If that answers the question.
Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yes, it did. Thank you. And just to follow up, have we ever discussed or has staff discussed doing pricing a different way other than per acre, as opposed to just putting a price on each one of the lots that we have available for sale?
I don't believe so, but I wonder if Dr. Dickey can help me on this one. I think for us, because we're dealing with pricing, and then it made more sense to do it by acre.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we did not discuss other options at this time. Anyway, the last couple of times we've come back with proposed pricing, we haven't discussed other options. So I don't have a lot of background on other options that have been looked at prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the reason I ask that is that it just seems to me that if you're going to purchase a lot and it's only half an acre, you typically could then be spending only $40,000 for that lot. And in this day, with the prices the way they are, I don't think you could find a piece of land or even half an acre 100 miles north of here for that price. So I'm just wondering if there's maybe a different way of looking at it as far as what do we have for sale? What could we get for each of the lots? Especially when the market seems to be so hot right now.
Through you, Your Worship, if I could, because I got thinking of something else too. In this, especially for commercial industrial land, a price per acre seems to be what the purchaser understand. Like when you look at all of the other municipalities that have similar land for sale, a lot of the pricing is by acre. So we're not opposed to looking at different way of pricing, but that seems to be the most common language that potential purchasers are speaking.
Thank you. Councillor Porter, anything further?
No, thank you. Thanks very much.
Any other member of council have a question with regard to this report? Seeing none, we have a recommendation with 2 parts within it. Does council wish to make a motion? And I'll go with Deputy Mayor. It's the first hand I saw.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendations.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Porter. Thank you. And mover, any comment? And seconder, any comment?
No, but I do have a follow-up motion as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other member of council? And seeing none, back to the mover for final. I'm assuming nothing. Right, then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Right, I'll go to Councillor Porter for follow-up.
Yes, if I just move that staff do a review of the pricing to see if there are alternative ways of charging for these lots.
And bring back a report. I'm assuming, yeah. I'll take that as a motion. Do I have a seconder for that? And I'll go with Councillor Buderick. Thank you. Mover, comment?
No, I just think it's important that we have all the information and we look at different ways of doing things. I know you say it's typical within other municipalities, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way to do it just because it's the typical way of doing it.
You seconder, any comment?
The only real reason I wanted to get behind this with Councillor Porter was there's only a finite amount of land that we own, and maximizing its value is as important as possible.
Thank you. Other members of council have comment? No? And back to mover for final? No? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. So thank you to staff for bringing that forward. And we'll move on to Community and Customer Services Department, item 12.1, accessible transit. And I believe Director McFarland is here. Right. Do you have anything to add to this report at this time, Director?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions with regard to the report before us? Seeing no questions, I'd look for a motion. And I'll take Councillor Buderick, seconded by Councillor Townend. Mover, any comment?
No, something that being part of the tax committee I was involved with early on. I think it's a great idea. I do like the fact that we're being cautious with a pilot project so that we can keep a close eye on it. So great kudos to staff for putting that in.
Thank you. Councillor Townend, any comment? No? Anyone else have any comment? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yes, I'm very pleased to see this come forward. I know accessible transportation has been a very hot issue in our municipality for a very long time. So I just want to thank those that were involved in getting this moving forward and taking on this pilot project.
Thank you. Anyone else have comment? And Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. To start off, I'm not a fan of sole sourcing. Competitive is always best, but with this project here, this is really the only way that we've been able to do this. And I thank staff for the ongoing work, because we've been working on this for a long time. And this, I think, as Councillor Porter said, this is a good opportunity to be able to get it started. We have to trial it. We have to get started. We have to find out what the opportunities are out there once we get going. So I'm fully supporting this, even though it's sole sourcing, simply because this really, I think, is the only method that we can get this started and be able to provide the service.
Thank you. Any other members of council wish to comment? Seeing none, back to the mover for final. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving forward to nothing in corporate services, we go to Economic Growth and Development Services Department. We have item 14.1, community development, a process, a request for support. Right. We have the report before us. And sorry, go ahead, Councilor Porter.
I'm sorry, you broke out, but I have a motion. I didn't know whether you were just asking for questions or if I could do a motion.
With regard to 14.1?
Yes.
Okay, I hadn't got quite there yet, but
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask the director if she had anything to add to it at this time.
Okay.
No, I have nothing to add, Your Worship.
Then I'm open for a motion.
I'm sorry, you keep going still. I'm not sure if I missed. But anyway, I move to receive and adopt the recommendation.
And motion to receive and adopt at the recommendation. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Gordon, thank you. Mover, any comments?
No.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment? No? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. I'm going to take a brief pause for a second. Just are other members of council finding that I'm breaking up? And I'm not seeing it. Unfortunately, it might be your connection, Councillor Porter. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Hagedorn, do you have comment?
It's my connection. It's my connection, though, I believe, because nobody else is having the struggle. So,
yeah, you are definitely, Deputy Mayor, you're definitely freezing up a little bit. If you find that I'm breaking up or you're not being able to follow the meeting, please raise a hand, raise a point of order, and I'm not sure what we can do to fix it, but at least be aware. Thank you. So we finished 14.1. I think we're on to 14.2. And this is the one that Councillor Porter has declared on. Right, we have a report before us with regard to Mill Creek Living Subdivision, Phase 1, Stage 1. I don't need to finish the details there. Director Merritt, do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
Nothing to add, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regards to it? I'm seeing no questions. Can I get a motion with regard to that report? Councillor Townend, thank you. Right. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks, thank you. Right. Mover, any comment? Seconder, any comment? Anyone else? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Porter, you can come back in now. Item 14.3, notification of an infrastructure master plan. I go to the director. Do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
Nothing to add, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions with regard to this? Deputy, go ahead.
thank you. Through you to the director. In the methods of public advertising, it mentions the WIG standard and the Napanee Beaver. Is there a reason that the Kingston This Week is not included? And I'm asking because the WIG is subscription only, which not everyone pays for. The Napanee Beaver does not cover the entire township. The eastern part of the township where I live, it's the Kingston This Week, or you don't get a free paper.
Through you, Your Worship. Unfortunately, I was not part of that detailed conversation as far as the plan goes. We can easily modify the plan to add that. That is a very good point that you're raising. So we can have a discussion with the team and add that to the plan. As long as we hit a couple of newspaper, we could make those modifications. That wouldn't be a problem at all. I mean, the bottom line with really what we absolutely must do is the notification to the, there's certain communication that we need to do, like for the notice of commencement, the notice of completion. We have to do for sure the consultation with certain agencies, and we have to do some public consultation. So these are really the basics, and then we're just adding more specifics to it. So I don't see a problem with us going to a different newspaper than what the plan entails.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have question or comment with regard to this? Seeing none. I did have a motion on this already, didn't I? No? Then can I have a motion? Councillor Tannen, so moved. Do I have a seconder? I'll go with Councillor Buderick. Thank you. Mover comment? Seconder comment? Anyone else have comment? And just for clarity, Director Merritt, the inclusion of the additional newspaper doesn't require a motion?
No, no, Your Worship, I don't believe it does. We can, you know, again, it's understood that there's some modification to the plan that will happen. Which newspaper we go to as far as the MCEA process goes, it doesn't really matter. We are going to publications, so specific ones, we don't need a motion for that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that clarity. And any other final comments? And then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to Emergency Services Department. The approval to sign a safety grant transfer agreement. Another one of these agreements that, if I could get it open, and that we need to sign off on. We have the chief with us. Right. Does anyone have, sorry, Chief, do you have any comments to add to this?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the chief with regard to this? I see none. And can I get a motion to approve? Councillor Porter, thank you. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Right. Any comments? Anywhere? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to communication for consideration. And we have already provided a motion after the delegation with regards to Mr. Evans to the clerk. We don't need to do anything with this then. Thank you.
No, Your Worship.
The next one is 16.2, Loyalist Family Health Team, Health Connector Model Pilot Project. And there's a letter addressed to myself with regard to this. Council, I know it's been available to you. I'm assuming you've read it. Do you have any questions with regard to it, or do we have a motion as to how we wish to deal with it? I'll go to the deputy.
I do have a question, and I'm not sure, I guess the CAO maybe. Has staff been in discussions with this or anything? I'm just, in reading the documents provided, it mentions partnership, but I'm unsure what that will entail.
And Mr. Silver, if you wish to answer, and I was in attendance at the meeting, you were not. And would you like me to?
Yes, please, Your Worship. That's what I was going to suggest.
Okay. As I say, I did have the opportunity to attend a meeting with this group, and what they're looking for right now is still, I would say, a developmental committee. And they're looking at meeting roughly once a month for the next few months, and they're asking for a staff member from the township to participate in that. And at that point, bring back what this would actually mean as far as the township's direct involvement, if the township has direct involvement. A lot of it has to do with providing contact with community members and the various organizations across the community. We, of course, have a number of contacts and have staff that are dedicated to that. So I'm assuming at this point, I'll leave it to our senior staff to make the decision. But if council wants to, at least in principle or at the early stages, engage with this, I think it would likely be our community development officer or someone of that nature, maybe our communications officer. But again, I'll leave it to staff to figure out who, but I believe that would be the only commitment that we would be making by engaging with this is a few meetings over the next few months, and then a report would come back to council to figure out what the next steps are. Does that help, Deputy?
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, it does.
And does anyone else have question or comment with regards to this? Seeing none, then I look for a motion on. And I'll go to Councillor Townend.
Yes, Your Worship. I move to receive and support and further move that staff report back to council when appropriate on the progress of the township's involvement, as well as any further impact on staff time.
Okay. I'll take that as a motion. All right. Do I have a seconder for that? And I'll take Councillor Parks. All right. Mover, any comment?
Just that I think at least at first blush, it seems like something that that's worthwhile. Obviously, healthcare provision is something that we cite very often as a need in our community, particularly primary healthcare. So at least at this stage, I think it's worthwhile for council to support it.
Thank you. Seconder, do you have any comment? No? Anyone else have comment? And just to double check, does the clerk have clarity on the motion? Thank you.
Yes, Worship.
And with that, if there's no further comments, I will call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to notices of motion or direct motions. Do we have any direct motions this evening? And Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to propose a direct motion in regards to, and it's timely due to the stay-at-home order. And I did provide it to the clerk if she's able to share her screen. That way, if I do cut out,
I will share my screen right now.
Thank you to the clerk. I'll give council a moment to read over that, at which point I will ask council to vote on whether that, oh, can we have that back, please?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't showing the right one. It was sharing my wrong screen, I think. Hold on one second. Screen 2. Is that sharing okay?
Utility proposed direct motion, yes.
Okay.
I can see it. The rest of council see it?
I can make it a bit bigger if that helps.
I'm not seeing any particular need. Okay. Okay. I get at least one thumbs up. The council can see it. Council, I will need your direction on making this a direct motion. As noted in the agenda, a request to introduce a direct motion requires a 2/3 majority of council. Now that you've seen the motion, this is not about whether you approve of the motion or not. This is about whether it is deemed to be direct. So, do I need a mover for that, to the clerk? A mover to make it direct?
Oops, no, Your Worship, you can just call the question, and if there's 2/3, then it can go as a direct.
Thank you. Okay, so I will call the question on making it a direct motion. And all those in favor, please show a hand. And that is carried. And it can be a direct motion. That makes the mover the deputy mayor. Right? Do I have a seconder for the motion? I'll take Councillor Buderick. Okay. Mover, any comments?
yes, I'll just briefly speak to it. for what my mindset was. This was, the reason I came up with this is we noticed previously, there are still a lot of our residents that do like to go to the office to pay their taxes, to pay their utility bills. And some like to do cash or checks, and they don't want to put that in a drop box without a receipt. And so with the stay-at-home order, I think the township should be leading by example and not making residents go into the office simply to pay a bill because they're afraid of getting a fee or interest. So if we can waive the interest and the fees on the utility bills and the taxes until 4 weeks after the current stay-at-home order is lifted, and also sort of in the same vein where people are trying to get in to make sure they get their $15 dog tags. If we could just leave it at the 15, the same as we did last year, right straight through. That's a minor expense, and I believe the fact that people are licensing their dog is more important than the extra $15 per tag. So that's why I'm proposing this, as well as in the off chance if somebody thinks that this is a reason to drive down here from a hotspot to go in the office to pay a bill, I would prefer they wait until after the stay-at-home order is done. They're not putting themselves at risk of any action, and everything can be done after this is lifted.
Thank you very much. Seconder, did you have comment?
None other than the fact that I heard the same concerns from constituents about wanting to be in person. So if we can keep people away while we're in the situation, it's a very good thing, and not penalize them. That's fantastic job by the deputy mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'll stop sharing, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Parks.
I just wanted to thank the deputy for bringing this forward. I think it's a great initiative to help make people stay safe.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, back to the mover for final. And then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion or direct motion to put forward this evening? I see none from council. Then we move to the consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are repetitive or routine in nature are included in the consent agenda, and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for separate vote upon the request of any member of council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meetings. Does anyone have anything they wish to extract from the consent agenda this evening? Deputy, go ahead.
I would like to extract 21.1 from the town of Kingsville.
21.1, okay. Does anyone else have anything to, or is there anything else to extract? Seeing none, then we'll have that extracted. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda without that one item? I'll take Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comments? Mover, seconder, anyone else? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We go to item 21.1. Sorry, I lost it there. In the town of Kingsville. Deputy, go ahead.
I would move to receive and support.
Motion to receive and support. And seconded by Councillor Porter. And mover comment?
Very briefly, I'm not getting into a debate about gun control. What I am concerned about is the downloading of enforcement. And constructing bylaws for gun control to a municipality or a city. That's not our jurisdiction, and it would create confusion and basically possibly give the opportunity for illegal gun owners to use it against the system.
Thank you. Seconder comment?
No, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Anyone else have comment on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. That brings us to 24, members' privilege. Is there anything under members' privilege that anyone would like to bring forward this evening? Nothing under members' privilege? Okay. Then looking at our upcoming meetings dates, we are scheduled for a regular council meeting on April the 26th, Committee of Adjustment and Committee of the Whole on May the 3rd, May the 10th and 25th for regular council again. Is there anything to adjust our schedule to the clerk? No? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, your worship.
Not yet, anyway. Right. With that, then we move to the confirmatory bylaw. Someone like to make that motion? I'll take the deputy, seconded by Councillor Porter. Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. And we come to the motion for adjournment. Who would like to make that one? And I'll take Councillor Gordon and Councillor Parks. Okay. Any comments? And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? We are adjourned, folks. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
Good night,
Hope you all stay
everybody.
safe and stay well.